Yep, we're going live. Hey, thank you all for joining us here today at the DPB Show, live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Rumble. Wow, there will be frost on the pumpkins. It is a chilly fall day out there. Fall's kind of taking us by surprise. This is David Paul Blumenshine. This is the DPB Show coming to you every Sunday here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond. And why we say beyond is because we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter. You can find us there. Please go out, like, subscribe, smash the button, and definitely comment. We want to know your feeling around the world, throughout our nation, locally here in the state of Illinois, and even more locally, micro locally in McLean County. Well, that's part of what I'm going to discuss today with you guys. I think it's important. It's the inside baseball, or as I pointed out a couple weeks ago on my show with Paul Harvey, and now you know the rest of the story. I love Paul Harvey. So let's get right to it. A lot of things happened over the past week. I know many of you are kind of wondering exactly what transpired at our local county board meeting. I know that Kat and Chuck Erickson did the Cigars with Chuck and kind of did a breakdown on a few things. But some of the things I know that you're not aware of, and I think it's important that you guys, that as our listeners, know exactly what is happening behind the scenes. Happy days are here again. We won. This is the best case scenario. This is not how it started out back on September 18th. Let me go back a little further for you. John McIntyre, a long-sitting county board member who raised to the level of chair, had to withdraw from his duties. He resigned as the county chair. Therefore, that put into motion a replacement of John McIntyre. Before John actually resigned, there was a member of the county board in District 8 that was no longer going to be able to exercise and to remain as a voting member because they were moving out of district. Therefore, there was a vacancy created in District 8. Then comes John McIntyre's announcement. Now there are two districts that are vacated. It is 9-9. The board currently sits at 10-10 as of today. That's how it sat a couple months ago after the elections. 10 Democrats, 10 Republicans. Well, lo and behold, John's resignation kind of caught the Republican Party by surprise, as it did so many other people. We didn't know what to do from that point on. Quickly, there was a meeting to announce or to vote on a new chair and to also seat District 8, which unfortunately we as a Republican Party had not put forth an applicant to submit their name as a replacement for John yet. You might be aware of this. You might not be aware of this, that they went ahead and voted that night. There was one member that was missing. So it brought it down to 9-8 was the voting members that were present. There was a Democrat member that was absent. He was wanting to vote in proxy by phone. They did not allow that. They went ahead and voted, and Catherine Metzger was put in as the current chair of the McLean County Party. Quickly, they moved to seat District 8, which was done. They pushed that envelope. There were 3 Republican board members who voted to seat this replacement, Jason Hansen, for District 8. Those members were Catherine Metzger, who was just put in as the chair, then Susan Schaefer of District 9, and Jeff Tompkins of District 7. They voted to go ahead and seat this District 8. Right then, it quickly created a disadvantage for the Republicans, 10-9. I, as your radio host, did not want to get into the county board race or the county board seat. It was the furthest thing from my mind. Many of you know, if you're following my show, that I have been working more on the national level with President Trump and also on a congressional level with not only Ray Estrada, who now has removed himself from the race in the 17th Congressional District, and Darren Bailey down in the 12th Congressional District. He is going to primary Mike Bost in that district. So I was already preoccupied, and yet I have a responsibility as the vice chair of the Republican Party here in McLean County to step up, to be a part of the system. It's one thing to ask everybody else to participate, get involved, to let the rubber hit the road, right? To be the person who steps forward and says, how about me? I'm here. Let me be the person. So that's what I did. September 18th came. I happen to have, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, my application right here before me. This is the one that I submitted, dated September 18th to the McLean County Board. This is the application resume form for appointment by McLean County Board. I put that together. I also submitted a resume. So obviously, if you're listening on radio, you can't see this as I hold it up, kind of do that paper shuffle like our dear friend and long remembered Rush Limbaugh used to do, of my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. I submitted my resume, and I was ready to go. At that time, there were no applicants. I didn't realize the deadline. That really didn't matter. I just knew that we needed to get an applicant in there. Now, granted, once again, getting to the inside baseball, I knew, as my listeners, thank you once again. We do appreciate you tuning in here. I hope that you turn the volume up or you view us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, or Twitter. I am noticing that the Bears are on halftime right now. It's 6-6. They're trying to get the crowd all motivated. But it is football Sunday. It is harvest season. There is a lot going on in our free nation we know as the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth. In my hand, I also hold a constitution, my pocket constitution. I'm going to refer to that today because I think it's important to understand this county board situation. So I submitted my resume as an applicant for the county board. No one else had submitted. Finally, we knew that we were coming towards the October meeting, that the executive board meeting, which was October 12th, and then subsequently the October 14th all board meeting, where they would vote on the nominee. The person who has the responsibility of presenting a nominee is the newly voted on chair, Catherine Metzger, District 1 of the county board. Catherine reached out to applicants. At that time, unbeknownst to me, we actually put a FOIA request forward to find out who the applicants were, and we only knew of two, myself and my friend, a great young man and a true patriot, Chad Burke. You've heard him tell his story here on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. So I'm not going to belabor that. I hope to at some point to get Chad back in studio with me. I've got a lot of questions myself. But Chad and I were applicants. As I said, unbeknownst to me, there were two other applicants that I found out at a meeting that I had with my wife and I and Catherine Metzger at Distill. She was meeting with all four applicants. Once again, I was aware of two. Now I know there's four. One of those applicants was Randy Knapp. once again, we win, people. We win here in McLean County. Randy Knapp is a great American. He will be, without question, a strong conservative voice on the county board of McLean. In fact, knowing that Chuck Erickson won't be continuing on in his service to the county board because now he's running for state representative, District 88, Randy will be kind of slid in there, and he is definitely a strong conservative voice. Well, once Catherine told me that Randy had submitted his application, I reached out to our county board chair, or I should say the McLean County Republican Party board chair. And I said, Dennis, happy days are here. Randy Knapp, who we were hoping was going to submit an application, and we were hoping that he would be running, because I better pause right there, because I don't know if you're aware of this, and it wasn't explained too well in any of the articles that I read, that John McIntyre did not finish out 2 years of his 4-year term. Therefore, since he did not complete 2 years, all that Randy is doing now that he was appointed, nominated by Catherine Metzger, voted in 18-2. 18 county board members voted yes for Randy Knapp. 2 were opposing Randy Knapp. But now that we know that Randy is the sitting appointed county board member, he only is filling out or continuing that first 2 years of John's tenure, or John McIntyre's 4-year term. Randy will have to be out there, and I hope that many of you will support Randy if you do live in District 5. Now, how do you know that? Kathy Michael is very good about getting you your voter ID cards. Look at the voter ID, Kathy Michael being our county clerk. Look at those voter ID cards. It will tell you what county board district you're in. If you're in District 5, you need to get a hold of Randy Knapp and sign his petition. He needs your support. But Randy now has to go back on the ballot. So when we come around to the primary in March, there will be 2 races going on in District 5. One will be Randy Knapp. I don't know if the Democrats will put up anyone to oppose him for the remaining 2 years. So he is appointed to fulfill the first 2 years, and he will have to run. And I know this could be confusing, and I hope I'm not confusing you. I'm hoping that I'm peeling back the layers of craziness that we don't really talk about. No wonder people have such a hard time understanding it. But Randy will complete the first 2 years. He will run for the remaining 2 years of John McIntyre's term. It will be designated in that heading of Board 5, District Board 5. Now, on the other side of it, there will be a 4-year term that we will need to put forth a candidate. Once again, this is where I say we win, right? I knew unequivocally, without a doubt, that putting my name forth as a county board member, you guys realize this, the left, they literally dislike me. Hate me. I'm not going to say hate. Hate's such a strong word. I haven't heard anybody say that they hate me. I can feel the hate sometimes coming as they are displaying their public comments or their arguments, but they definitely weren't going to vote to have DPB, yours truly, on the county board. That would not have been an 18-2 vote, Kevin, just so you're aware of that.
Why not? Why wouldn't they vote for you, DPB?
Well, Kevin, and we're going to get to that because Ben Matthews, who happens to serve as the union representative throughout McLean County, the Unit 5 school district and District 87, he holds a position with UNISERV. He got up to make public comment because he wanted to tell the world why. A big part of it. And we're going to play that. I don't want to play
I have that clip.
I know you have that clip, and I'm looking at the clock, and I want to make sure we have enough time to cover it because I want to break it down, because that is the part of the inside baseball that we're going to continue to talk about, the rest of the story. But Kevin, your question is good. It's a good question. Why? Why would they not put you in place? Well, we're going to talk about Leah Klein and the questions she had for me uh, when we all had an opportunity to be interviewed by the executive board of the McLean County Board.
Well,
Um,
because the way I see it,
Go ahead.
David, is I mean, you're a person who objectively has a significant level of experience in state and local politics. You'd think that they'd want somebody who is proven a record, even if it's not necessarily what they agree with.
That's why I'm wrinkling it,
Yeah,
Kevin.
you have a serious record that shows that you are very involved in state and local politics. Wouldn't they rather have that than somebody who's inexperienced and knows nothing about how it works
And
and
I'm
what they're
not taking
doing?
away anything from Randy. I love the candidate Randy Knapp, but I am going to point to Catherine Metzger and how she responded to our own Kevin Woodard
Mm,
and the article that we put forth on our page. You can see it there at Cities 92.9. But when you look at the vast now, and once again, I'm not here to blow smoke and to
yeah.
say I'm better than anyone else, but without question, Kevin, you just uh, put it all in a nutshell.
Hmm.
The most qualified candidate that was there out of the four applicants was yours truly. So why wouldn't they want somebody like that? Well, we're going to get to that. We have Ben Matthews telling the world why it is that you shouldn't vote for DPB or David Paul Blumenshine. And we're going to cover that when we come back from break here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Kevin, he's all knowing. Kevin does a very good job of being in, having that intuition about where we're going, because he must have looked at my resume, my objectives. It is a good point, Kevin. And thank you once again, all of you that are watching on Facebook Live. Hold on, where are my eyeballs? Oh, my eyeballs are gone off the camera.
Let me see if I can find them. I think I know where they might be.
Do you know where my eyeballs went? So I make sure I'm looking at the camera. So Kevin is correct. Without question, there is, here he is. He's putting my eyeballs up there so I don't lose my place. If you were to compare resumes, and I know that one of the applicants, Cat Woods, who was a Democrat supported candidate or applicant, not candidate, applicant for the appointment. She would have been approved by only the Democrats, which at that time they could have approved her. She had 10 votes to 9 Republicans because that position had not been seated yet as an appointment. So Cat Woods, nice lady, once again, we're as far apart on the spectrum, but we had good conversation as we were put in a room to be held until we each had an opportunity to speak before the executive committee, and to be, as I refer to it, it was more like a Spanish Inquisition than actually a forum of discussing the qualifications of an applicant. We weren't going to discuss those. We were going to discuss everything that would be about disparaging or character assassination, and we're going to cover that. We've got 2 hours today, and that's why this show is going to be designated for our rights. Do we all have equal rights? It doesn't appear that way when it comes to those on the left. Don't believe that we on the right should have the same rights, the same unalienable rights, equal rights as they have. We're going to come back here live on the radio and discuss that. Hey, we always appreciate you joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond, because you can find us live on Facebook right now. We do appreciate all those people that are joining us on Facebook Live, Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. Go out there, smash that like button, subscribe, comment if you have a comment. We would love to hear from you. It's the way that we continue to grow this movement. And that's what it is here. We are activists. I'm an activist. And that's part of the rationale of why I would have never have garnered the appointment by the McLean County Board to replace John McIntyre, because I am a persuasive activist. I have this beautiful microphone and this time with you, our audience. You guys are the best. There's no question about it. Well, I see the comments. I get the that away, that attaboy, David. You know, when I'm out in public, many people come up to give me salutations, to pat me on the back, to say, keep going, keep pushing in. And you know what? It's really inconsistent with who I am. I'm an introverted at heart. However, I know through the power of the Holy Spirit that God has put forth this microphone, and I have a responsibility. It's a great responsibility to make sure that I'm sharing with you as my bump music plays and you hear the messaging behind Christian contemporary music. When you hear the disclaimers, when you hear that I'm somebody that is going to talk about the brokenness of local, state, and federal government, the corruption that has been my pledge to you as our listeners, to inform you about things you're not going to find out there in the mainstream media. But getting back, if you weren't with us before break, I'll kind of try to catch you up as quick as I can. There was an appointment to the county board last week to replace the chairperson, John McIntyre, who resigned after many years of faithful service to the McLean County Board. John, we are praying with and for you, my friend. We know that he's experiencing some health issues. And you know what? John's 80 years of age. How long do you serve with in public service? It's not an easy job. And I always have said nobody in their right mind should want to be involved in politics, especially now. And you're going to know a little bit more about that when we play some of the audio that we have from the executive board meeting and then subsequently the full board meeting when they voted to appoint Randy Knapp as our District 5 county board member to fill out the vacancy of John McIntyre's first 2 years in office. Randy will have to run again for the remaining 2 years, so he will be on the ballot. So I ask you, if you're in District 5 or if you know of anybody in District 5, you ask them to reach out to Randy Knapp and help him get on the ballot. He needs your help. The signatures, get it behind him, support him. He's going to be an awesome addition to the county board, and he's going to be a great fill-in for John McIntyre. But as we were saying prior to going to break, I submitted my application, submitted my resume. At that time, there were no other applicants. That's where we were at. So Kevin asked the question before we went to break, why would they not vote you in, DPB? You had the credentials. You have more experience than all other three applicants combined. Why wouldn't they seat you? Well, we're going to get to that in the next segment of the show. We've got to go to break, give our sponsors an opportunity. We hope that you guys go out and support our sponsors. They are keeping us going here with this content at Cities 92.9. So with that said, we'll see you on the other side shortly. All right. Got a little warm in here in studio. Is it just me, Kevin, or is it you?
No, it does that a little bit sometimes.
We closed the door.
And it's chillier outside, so I don't think our AC in here is running as much as it usually does.
We don't have AC. The Bengals are up on the Seahawks, for any of you that are wondering about that game. It's nice to have the games right up here above my camera that I'm supposed to be looking at, other than I keep looking at this. It's hard not to watch football when you have a monitor right above the camera that you're talking into. But it's the Holy Ghost, brother. Hey, thank you. Look at that. Thank you, my friend, for tuning in. You're not, without question. It's the only thing it is. Um, Nothing but the blood of Jesus, my friend. It's the only way that I am able to do what I do here. Um, and at the same time, let's see. Hold on, another commenter above that. Kevin, for too many folks on both sides are answering to the teachers union. Yeah. Well, Kevin, we're going to play a little audio from the teachers union's representative and listen to what he had to say about yours truly. Um, Once again, I'd always defend his right to say it, but it's fascinating that he got up there and bloviated and told everyone why it is that I shouldn't be allowed to exercise my First Amendment right, which is, once again, gaslighting, hypocritical. It's all they have. You know, if they didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. You would like to see people like that just get up and just be honest. Say, I just don't agree with him and I don't like him. That's one thing. But to start going on into the chasms of character assassination and things like that, I'm not going to do it here. I know that um, Ben Matthews has a family. I'm assuming he has a wife, um, and he might not, but I know he has a family. And I'm sure that his family members care deeply about him as their father, husband,
Isn't this also the
family member.
guy that guarded John Danenberger when he was getting me kicked out of that forum?
He could have been.
I'm pretty
He was
sure.
also the representative who brought in the Michael Madigan attorney when Brad Worth and like Jeff Frank had put forth a opposition. What do you call that? When you're submitting petitions, I know it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Contest?
They're contesting the applicant that's putting forth their candidate packet. And that's all they did. It's a matter of asking a question. Can the applicant do what he has done? And it's not a legal issue. It's just a question to see if he's in compliance. Objection. I'm sorry. That's objection. I knew I was going to get there eventually, but thank you. They all can not be swayed for your core values. Well, no question about that. No question about that. Because at the core, what is at a person's core? That they will let you know that. It doesn't take me very long. And it's part of the reason why there are many people out there in our community that won't come in studio with yours truly. I'm just going to ask questions. I'm going to be me. I think I did that the other night during the executive committee meeting. And I think we're going to play a little bit of that.
We're about to come back.
And we're coming back live. Boy, that song says it all. I don't feel qualified. You guys know that. I think I've told you that many times over. It's a matter of Chris Berman on ESPN, rumbling, stumbling, and fumbling. That's the way that yours truly ended up here behind the microphone. I know that one of my favorite commentators, opinionators out there is one of our headline guys. During the week, I listen to his podcast almost every day. I try to catch a little bit of his live radio show, and that's Dan Bongino. I love Dan Bongino. And Dan will tell you, he just wrote a book, The Gift of Failure. If it wasn't for his failure at running for public office, he would not be the Dan Bongino show. I mean, he's knocking it out of the park. I mean, numbers beyond my wildest dream. And I could only hope and pray that if Lord willing, and ultimately that is what it's about. If God doesn't want me here with you on Sundays from 1 to 3, the DPB show, next Sunday, I'm not going to be here. I will listen to God and his prompting if I'm going to continue to be bringing you the content, because as quickly as he put this in front of me, he can take it away. I hope that I live up to my pledge to honor him in all that I do and say. Therefore, it is very hard for me to take anything away from another person. During the county board executive committee meeting, there were questions, and I started alluding to these a little bit, and we'll get back to uh, some of those points that I was making earlier. But during the questioning, and just to set the stage, there were 4 applicants: Cat Woods, Randy Knapp, Chad Burke, and myself. I happened to be the first person to go, and when we arrived there, it was made. We were made aware that we would be allowed to sit in the chambers during the questioning. Then that was changed out. Then we were held in a room with behind closed doors, and one at a time we went in, but none of us could sit there while the other was being questioned. Now, granted, when the person came back from being questioned, I happened to be the one that went first. We would find out, their feelings and maybe some of the questions that were being asked. Well, in this particular questioning that was done by the executive board, Leah Klein was the first one to go. And she asked yours truly. She said, David Paul, we're looking, and not really looking at my resume, because we're going to talk a little bit more about my resume. But she wanted to know if you've run for office twice for state rep against Dan Brady for the 105th District state representative seat, and you lost those 2 races, and then you ran for a city council seat in the town of Normal, and you lost that. Haven't the people of McLean County, Bloomington, Normal already told you that they don't want you to represent them? This is honestly her question, which has nothing to do with the qualifications. And I'm going to go through, like I said, some of those in a minute. My answer to Leah was pretty straightforward. I think we might even have a clip, but I'll go ahead and just inject what I said to the best of my knowledge. I'm not saying this is verbatim, but this is the best of my knowledge. I said, Leah, here's the thing. I did run 3 times, and I don't think that disqualifies you from holding an office after you fail. I ran against a very a machine. I said, he is a retail politician. Dan Brady is one of the best retail politicians I've ever seen. He's got it down. In fact, I went on to say that you could not have a gathering of people in McLean County where 2 or more gathered. Dan Brady is there in his name, shaking hands, and trying to campaign. That's what he did for over 20 years. We know at 8 years as a McLean County coroner, 20 years as a state representative, and then he went on to run for Secretary of State. So I knew unequivocally going into that I was underfunded. However, I was going to work my tail off. And in the first election, I got 25% of the elector voted for me. Republican. Leah, your side of the aisle, some of them might have pulled ballots for a primary, but it was mostly Republicans, 25%. I thought that was a pretty good number. 25% without having any prior experience. Yeah, thank you. Chatter on the line, Christo. Thank you, my friend. Yes, you're right. A lot of rude questions. I do recall her asking that question. She would never ask that to someone who is running as a Democrat. Peace out, brother. That is so true.
Okay, can I add something real quick?
No,
just because there's a flaw in her logic. If you think about her logical
Thank
training,
you, because I needed to get a drink of water.
No, I
Kevin.
got you. But what she says is, because you did not successfully run for office, people do not want you. That's a false dichotomy that she's creating. Really, if you take the contrapositive of the proposed statement of that you ran and failed,
Hold on, I gotta get my dictionary out. Contra's positive. What?
Contrapositive meaning
Kevin's studying for the LSAT exam, so he's throwing big words out here. Go ahead.
It's what can be assumed, essentially in this instance, it's what can be assumed based as the opposite of the proposed statement. So the proposed statement is you did not, or you failed in your attempts to run. Yes. And she's offering only one solution, which would be that people do not want you to represent them, when there are other alternatives, such as the fact that it could be that people wanted the other person more, but that doesn't mean that they don't want you.
Yes.
It just means that whoever was running against you, some wanted more.
And the net sum wasn't 0 to 100.
Well, exactly.
And
There's that
I
as
think,
well.
and I think that's
But what I'm trying to
Yes.
say is that it is not strictly that people did not want you. Even the people that voted for your opponent
Dan Brady.
could still have very well been content with you as their representative. They
Yes.
just wanted the other one more.
That is correct, which was a good point. I wish I would have been thinking on my feet like that, because I should have had you there, Kevin. Should have put you in as the applicant. But you're right. And so 25% in 2018 against Dan Brady. I know that Dan was a little upset because I did not give a concession speech. I did not call him. In fact, I went for a statement. News 25, I think, is the news source that was there, and others were there at Joe's station house where we had our return, or our party, after election party. And they asked me, are you ready to concede? I said, oh no, we're just getting started. I said, we're coming after him again. And it starts today, because I truly believed that people who hold office for an extended period of time become part of the system. In fact, that was part of my answer to Leah, that elections are controlled by candidates, are controlled by lobbyists and special interests, and so are elections. I'm a firm believer in that. You can see it demonstrated in not only local politics, but Springfield, and in the federal elections. But so the second election, 2020, I got 38%. I did the math. You don't need 100% to win an election. You need 50 plus 1. I was at 38. That means I went from 25 to 38. That's 13% improvement. I think that's pretty good. And then all I would need in a third election is 12% plus 1 vote to capture the office. Unfortunately, maps are redrawn. Dan Brady and I were never going to do as Ali and Frazier, the Thrilla in Manila. We weren't going to have an opportunity to go 3 times at one another. And personalities aside, I don't do personalities. I do outcomes, like Dan Bongino. I do policy. I just want to talk about what's in front of us and what we're dealing with. And that's what I was trying to share with member Klein. By the way, the Dems were definitely loaded. They had gone and done some of their deep dive research. And then it moved on to another county board member who asked a very good question. Obviously, we know that John McIntyre was a Republican. This was from Val Lehman. We know that John was a Republican. We know, obviously, you're a Republican. Anybody that listens to the DPB show knows that I vote Republican. First and foremost, I'm a Christian. Then I'm a conservative. And then I choose to vote Republican right now. I mean, that could change someday. Maybe things will kind of find their way back where we believe collectively in the things that are near and dear to my heart: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the constitutional principles that we uphold as a constitutional republic. But the second question was, can you work across the aisle? And my answer was very quick. Of course I can. County government, it's not my money. It's your money. It's the taxpayers' money. They pay taxes, and we are the stewards. We are the ones who appropriate where that money goes to take care of the facilities that need to be taken care of: the county jail and health center, mental health center, the nursing home, and all of the other ancillaries, the McLean County Sheriff's Department. So we have a responsibility to maintain county government. And I don't think that's a partisan thing. We could differ in how much money we think needs to be spent, which only puts us in a position that, do we have to go back to the taxpayer and raise taxes? We know that people right now are experiencing unbelievable pressure, downward pressure, with inflation being at all-time highs on their household budgets. Well, as a county board, that's what we're dealing with, is a budget, and expending your money to the best to the best ability that we have to maintain the services for all people throughout the county, whether it's in the mental health field, or whether it's in the park district area, Kamalara Park. That's what our responsibility is. Great question. Finally, it moved on to Elizabeth Johnston. And if you're just tuning in here to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, this is DPB. You can find us out on Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, and on Facebook Live. But we're recounting what transpired. We're doing the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey says, the behind the scenes, the inside baseball, things you're not going to hear about. Congratulations, Randy Knapp, for being appointed the newest board member. That was my pick from the beginning. Originally, we were told that Randy wasn't going to submit an application, and then he did. I was going to withdraw, but then we figured out why do that. We now have what I believe 3 very strong candidates for county board, and we were going to definitely leverage off of those 3 candidates. In fact, the best is yet to come. As I said to Dan Brady, the best is yet to come. Randy Knapp's going to run for the remaining 2 years of John McIntyre's tenure. I do believe there's going to be an announcement shortly of another person who will oppose this 3rd member who asked the question, Elizabeth Johnston. She is a member in that District 5 where the interviews were being conducted of these applicants. And Elizabeth Johnston's question was this, and this is precious. And I might not get to all of it before we have to take a break, but Elizabeth goes, I have 2 questions. I was like, oh, here we go. Elizabeth's got 2 questions. First of all, basically, and I might not be getting it totally accurate, so go back and listen to the recording. It's out there on YouTube. Do you live in the district that you've applied for? So right off the bat, she's insinuating that I've made application to take on a position that I don't have a legal right to do. Almost like you're being dishonest. And so that didn't go over well, but it brought me to a message I received on Facebook from a news reporter who asked me, rumor has it you do not even live in district. I sent a copy of my Kathy Michaels county clerk voter ID card. The reporter said, well, that puts that rumor to rest. I said to Elizabeth Johnston, my answer was quick. I said, Elizabeth, now I kind of understand the question that this reporter had and maybe where it came from. I can't say for certain that Elizabeth Johnston was putting up a reporter to ask this question of me, but it's interesting or ironic that she was asking the same question this reporter did, questioning whether I actually physically lived in district, which my answer was yes. In May, I moved. So she said, so you didn't live in district? I said, no, I lived in District 4 up until May 1st. And then my wife and I moved into District 5. That was well ahead of John McIntyre even making a decision to resign. So I don't even know why it is that she chose to go down that rabbit hole. But best is yet to come, Elizabeth. There you go. I just sounded the shot heard round to the world, right? But I want to get to the second part of Elizabeth's question because this is where it gets into character assassination, and that's all it is for a good portion of the members on the county board. And we're going to cover that when we come back here at Cities 92, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. Hey, thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us live on the Facebook chat. Appreciate all of you. As I said earlier, when I see the names of who's kind of watching, it brings a smile to my face. Obviously, I'm supposed to look at the camera when I say that, but I'm looking at the screen because I'm also looking at the comments. But I just appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like and share. Obviously, you're already commenting, Kevin Lauer. You're definitely on target. I think Kat even mentioned that in the article that she collaborated with Kevin Woodard, that Abraham Lincoln failed time and time again to achieve his goal of holding a certain office. And ultimately, he became president of the United States. Now, Kevin, I'm going to assure you, I have no desire to be the president of the United States. However, if God Almighty moves me in that direction, I can't do anything about it, because God will, delayed obedience is disobedience, and I will not disobey my Lord, and my life. So thank you, Kevin, for that comment. Progressive Democratic ideology believes hold that those elected officials can spend your tax dollars better than anyone else. Very arrogant to hold this belief. True. I mean, isn't that the difference between Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz? They believe pretty much that all of the things that we need to be a part of as a government, limited government, need to have monies. It's just a matter of where those monies come from. They believe that government should be providing all of that. And I believe that we, the people, should be providing that. And the government's providing it usually comes from we, the people. But really, it should be us collaborating and working uh, in the areas that we can to supply. There's so many programs that have been done away with. They've been kind of pushed out because big government came in and moved them out of the way. One of those things is fatherhood. Government has really had an effort, put on a full court press to basically disband fatherhood. And I don't think that will ever be a good solution. Societal ills that we have. Most of the problems I think that we have come from a lack of of being obedient to God. But then second, having fathers in the household. It's a big part. We're coming right back live. We are we are moving along here in the DPB show. I can't believe it. I knew this was going to be a quick show today because many of you, and once again, thank you for tuning in to the DPB show. I know it's not the best time. It's football season here, even in studio. As I point up to the screen, I'm looking. The Vikings are up 12-6 on the Bears. Yes, I'm a Bear fan. I don't spend a lot of time watching them because it gets very disappointing. It's the harvest season. I mean, it's a beautiful, crisp fall day. And there's nothing that energizes me more than going out away from town a little bit and watching our farmers. I know that it was National Farmers Day last week. Shout out to all of our farmers. I know that we have a program here at Great Plains Media and Cities 92.9, the Feed the Farmers, the Bowl, and Magic, because it's important, especially at this time of the year. Our farmers, the breadbasket of America, they are the eighth wonder of the world, as Paul Harvey referred to him. But it's so important. Go out, enjoy the day. Thank you for taking me with you wherever you go, whether that be via your automobile, your transportation, I should say your vehicle, because many of you have different forms of transportation. But also you can take us with you if you're sitting at a coffee shop, watching on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. We just appreciate you being part of this. Go out, subscribe, like, comment. We got many commenters in the comment section today. Appreciate you guys immensely. I can't do it without you. Your encouragement keeps me going. I look at the names that pop up there, and it always brings a smile to my face. But I want to cover it before we get to the top of the hour break. Elizabeth Johnston is a county board member in District 5. That is the district that the vacancy of John McIntyre had to be filled last week. And I was telling you, if you're just tuning in, it was a two-part question. First, Elizabeth Johnston was questioning whether I lived in district. She wanted to know the answer. Fair enough question, right? I happened to move. I lived in District 4. My wife and I took advantage of this inflated real estate market. We decided to take cash out. My wife's started her 35th year in August of teaching kindergarten in District 87. That's the magic number. She is done. Happy days are here again. And I say that because 35 years of working with young people, you earned the retirement. Without a doubt, you have earned it. And my wife will be ending her career with District 87 in May. And therefore, we don't know where the Lord's going to lead us. My wife and I, many of you know this by listening to the yours truly here on Sundays, that we're part-time missionaries. We believe that God has called us to be missional in our life. And there's plenty of missions here in the United States, just like abroad. So you can be missional wherever you live at. There's need everywhere. I mean, there's need right here in Bloomington Normal, McLean County, the state of Illinois, many places throughout the United States. But as so far away, there's needs Jamaica, uh, believe it or not, second poorest country in the Caribbean, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Belize, India, Africa. My wife and I are willing. If God tells us this is where we're to go, we're going to go. But I want to get to the second part of Elizabeth's question. Not only did she want to know where I lived, yes, we had moved into District 5, so therefore I have a voter ID card. Compliments of Kathy Michael, our county clerk. Quickly, as I did change of address, she presented that card to me. I sent that on. Everybody, it's recorded where I live at. Um, and so the second part of the question was even a little bit. This is where it gets into disparaging people. Elizabeth, I would never do this to you. Maybe somebody's listening that could get this back to Elizabeth. Um, she wanted to know that during my years of campaigning for state rep, that I happened to be going to door. My wife and I covered about 4,500 doors in our two runs for state representative against Dan Brady. Personally, we had other people that were volunteers that were helping us too. I don't know how many doors in total we covered, but my wife and I, made it a mission to try. We were trying to get to 5,000. That's what I think was our goal. But we gave it a shot, right? It's during a time of the year where the weather's not the best. We both had careers. And so we were doing it part-time, spare time whenever we could. We'd go out and meet the public. But this is what Lizzie wanted to refer to in the second part of her question. Did I call her? I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I called her Lizzie. I know that's many people call her Lizzie. She might even go by Lizzie. But Elizabeth wanted to know that she had talked to somebody who talked to somebody who talked to somebody. That's not how it went, but it just reminded me of the song off from REO Speedwagon. Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard from another, that you weren't a very nice person. That was the gist of her question. David, you tend to be antagonistic, argumentative. This is what somebody told me. My answer is going to surprise many of you. I believe that God was with me that night. That happens to be last Monday night. And I'm going to get to the answer after the top of the hour news and also a break for our sponsors. Can tell you a little bit about their businesses. Please go out and patronize them. Buy their goods and services. They keep us going here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. But we're going to cover obviously much more about the county board. And I also have some other opinions on what's happening around the world in Israel. Israel's at war. We know that. But we're going to do that on the other side of break. That's all right. I got it, I think. Close enough. I did a Tim Farrell. I think I'm going to have to open this door.
A little warm.
It is warm. Kevin's going to cover for me.
I will cover for him.
I got to use the restroom.
Hey, everybody. I know DPB's out. He'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my show on from 3 to 5 today on Cities 92.9. I'm Kev Ferris, host of Speechless. I know you can't see me right now. I'm behind a different camera, getting everything ready for my show, talking a lot more about Israel, Hamas, Palestine, everything like that, making sure that you guys know not even as much about the conflict itself, but how entitled Americans are reacting to the terrorist attacks and in Israel and all of that. It's absolutely astonishing to see the lack of support of Judeo-Christian values and just American exceptionalism and understanding what a privilege it is to live in America. It's insane to me that you have college students that will even support terrorism and put their name behind supporting terrorism and not expect any kind of blowback for that. So we're going to cover all that stuff. But I hope you guys are enjoying the DPB show today as he covers what exactly happened at the McLean County board meeting in which he got grilled. He got grilled. And David, you want to know what I would have said if I got asked somebody said to me, you know, you're kind of antagonistic. You can be kind of a rebel rouser or anything.
Yes.
You don't know what I would have said?
What have we just said?
And
Listen to my show. Cancel this. No, speechless.
I would have just said, and I would have just said, and what's the problem with that?
Yeah.
With being a little antagonistic? What's the problem with questioning authority? What's the problem with being a critical thinker?
And that's gonna play right into what our program's about today is, do we have equal rights? Do the Dems believe that you and I, Kevin, as conservative talk show people, activists, have the same unalienable rights provided through the Constitution as they have? We're going to play the Ben Matthews piece. I mean, he gets up there and rambles. I don't know if we have the Corey Burns where he's visibly upset and angered by the fact that these two applicants, Chad Burke, how dare Chad? Do you realize he's got issues of temperament, according to Elizabeth Johnston?
I have Ben Matthews, Elizabeth Johnston, and Siri Burney.
Yep, that's it.
I have those three.
Corey, I like Siri Burney because
that's what Kat said.
It's Siri Burney, yeah,
Corey Burns,
because he was upset.
I do have all of those clips.
So we're going to get to those in the next hour. We're going to play those. But they truly believe that your First Amendment are equal to their First Amendment rights? That's the interesting thing. And that's we are where we are in the divided states of America is because there are many out there that truly believe that your opinion only is a legal opinion if it agrees with their opinion. And unfortunately, that's not the Constitution.
Nope.
That's not about law and order. Yes, that's right, Kevin. You're right. And it's well stated. Here's how I kind of answered that. And I know I'm going to cover this when we get on the other side of break here. It's a little longer, but first I said that when we talk about hearsay, because we've heard a lot about that in a court of law, which this by no means was a court of law, it felt like a Spanish Inquisition. And if it felt like that for myself, I can't imagine Chad and what he had to endure. I mean, he literally had to relive the trauma of being attacked and stabbed 19 times by someone in his neighborhood who had harassed his family for months. And all he was doing was defending his property and his family. And he knew that allowing this person to go near his house might not be the best thing. But anyhow, I digress a little bit, but you're right. The questioning for me and my answer was this, is that Elizabeth, when you're talking about people who aren't even present here in this meeting tonight, because that's not what this meeting's about. It's trying to find out who is most qualified to fill the vacancy of John McIntyre on the county board. This isn't my friend Susie said that you came to her door during campaign season and your temperament or you were argumentative or antagonistic or whatever adjective she applied to it. That really has nothing to do with what the purpose of being there. And ultimately, my answer was, I'm a very persuasive person. Why? I mean, that's what I do every week, right? I persuade you to go out and vote. I persuade you to go deeper, to ask more questions, to be a part of the electoral process. Um, does it necessarily always work? No. I mean, nothing always works. In fact, um, getting back to member Leah Klein's comment, and here we're going live back on the radio. You know, you get pulled between the two media spectrums, platforms, between being on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and then being back live on the radio. You know, our headliners like Levin and Shapiro and uh, Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck, they don't do simulcasting. We are actually, and maybe they do, maybe their radio shows are, but I know Bongino does a podcast before he actually does his 3 hours radio, but you get caught up in mid sentence before you have to come back on the air. Hey, thank you for joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. And I always say beyond now because Kevin Ferris, right across the way, Mr. Speechless, who's always with me on Sundays doing the production behind the scenes. He's put together platforms with YouTube's Twitter, Rumble, and Facebook that allows you as the audience to get an appeal that you can't necessarily get from radio. Granted, we appreciate you listening to us, but now you can go and watch us live in studio, not only the DPB show, but the Morning Buzz with Kat, Ty Smith, Cancel This. You can watch, I don't know about the other programming, so I'm not going to make a statement that El Donzo and D's, are they or not?
They have a YouTube channel. They manage their own.
They manage their own. So El Donzo and D's, shout out to El Donzo and D's. But Ty Smith, and then Speechless across the way, Kevin. So we appreciate you. And once again, getting caught up between it. On the Facebook side of things, I was talking a little bit about the question that was posed by county board member of District 5, Elizabeth Johnston, about my temperament at the door. And that I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another, that you weren't nice at the door. No, it went something like this. Many people approached me. None of those people were present in this forum that we were having, which really had nothing to do with my temperament. Now, I understand that's important, right? For many people out there, that government should be about kumbaya and coming together. I am a peaceful person. I seek peace in all I do. In fact, so my answer to Elizabeth was this: since your friends aren't present, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I heard this about Elizabeth Johnston, let's just get to the heart of the matter. You know, if you don't like me, that's okay. I'm not here to represent you, the Democrat Party, or Elizabeth Johnston. I'm here to represent the people of District 5. She had pointed that out in my resume that I had said that I wanted to, and I just want to make sure that Elizabeth is aware of this. I don't think she's listening to the show, but Elizabeth, it says to represent all people of the 5th District. All people. That's inclusive of you and your family and all other families and McLean County. So it's just not McLean County. I mean, District 5 is part of McLean County. Therefore, we're making decisions to represent all of the people in our district and all of McLean County. I don't see how that is so confusing, but I'm glad that you did ask the question. You had that right. That's part of our First Amendment rights. You could have asked a plethora of questions. None of them really pertained to the qualifications I have. Temperament, as I ended it, I said this to Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I believe that every person should be treated with worth and dignity. Every person. Unfortunately, I don't always find that to be the case from the other side of the aisle. The Democrats. I don't see that everybody is treated as a person of worth and dignity. In fact, that was very evident in the questioning of the applicant who came after me, Chad Burke. And you heard a lot about that earlier this week on Cat's show. You're going to hear more from Chad Burke. That's a little teaser. Hint, hint, hint. There might be a big announcement coming in the not too distant future. We already have Randy Knapp there. He will be running for the 5th district to fulfill the remaining 4-year term of John McIntyre. There is a position to oppose Elizabeth Johnston. And Elizabeth, you're going to get an opponent. There you go. I can guarantee you that. I'm not going to give you the exact name of who it is, but you are going to get an opponent. You earned it. You really did. You really earned it getting an opponent. But basically, that was my back and forth. And when I talk about how we treat one another with worth and dignity, which I will always uphold, treating you as a person of worth and dignity, Elizabeth, I don't think I've ever gone into personal attack, nor will I. I'm not going to let you know that I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. I will say this, based on your performance or your questioning the other night, I really didn't find that to be the best quality uh, about a human in how you conducted yourself. I think you could have handled that much differently. You had our phone numbers. If you had questions like that, they could have been asked prior. I answer my phone. In fact, Elizabeth, if ever there you would like to come into studio, by all means, you're always welcome here. I'd love to have a back and forth. Now, granted, if it gets heated, which it kind of did the other night, and I know Kevin's got it queued up, and I think this is a great segue. We got heated a little bit because they do allow public comment. And by all means, do I believe that public comment should always be part of our opens meetings? By all means, everyone has a First Amendment right to speak their piece. Here is Ben Matthews, who happens to represent, I'm not even have to tell you, he'll tell you. He represents the teachers union. He's going to go ahead and tell you that. Go ahead, Kevin, roll it.
Matthews. I was born and raised in McLean County. I now live and work here, representing nearly 2,000 educators who work in our District 87 and Unit 5 schools. As a resident of District 5, I've paid special attention to the vacancy created by the resignation of John McIntyre, and I've been disappointed, but not surprised by what I've observed. On this evening's agenda is the filling of the District 5 vacancy. The process is straightforward. The chair will recommend an appointment to fill the vacancy, subject to the board's approval. 4 candidates applied. 2 of them should cause all of us concern.
You can cut it right there.
David Paul Blumenstein spearheaded.
2 of them should be of great concern. All right. I think he's going to tell us this. All right. Here is what you should be concerned about with David Paul Blumenstein.
Approval. 4 candidates applied. 2 of them should cause all of us concern. David Paul Blumenstein spearheaded a Stop the Steal trip to Washington, D.C. on January 6th,
Insurrectionist!
Leading a bus full of our neighbors to the nation's capital in support of the former president's claim the election had been stolen from him. Blumenstein has not apologized for his participation.
Hold on. Stop it right there, Kev. So, Ben, you are having public comment where you are granted the opportunity to exercise your First Right Amendment. And you just are playing down another person who was exercising their First Amendment right to peacefully and patriotically go out to D.C. to participate in a rally because we believe there was not necessarily a fair and free election. So First Amendment only applies to people that you agree with, right, Ben? Is that what you're saying? Go ahead, Kevin.
Acknowledge the reality of what occurred that day, and he continues to spout various spurious claims on the conservative radio station.
We got to stop it
which
again.
Sponsored the trip.
The spurious claims I'm going to get to, but he has not apologized. You know, that's not true, Ben. Ben, I came out that weekend. See, January 6th was the rally, J6. I did a show. And I came out and said that there is no way that this station or anyone affiliated with this station or anyone who was a member who participated in that bus ride condones political violence. No one. Ben, let me say it again. I know that you don't listen to the DPB show, Ben, so let me bring you up to speed. We here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond, thank you for tuning in today, do not condone political violence in any form. No way, no how. Not then, not now, and next year we're not going to condone political violence. So as far as spouting whatever you're saying, no, Ben, that's what we do. See, I'm a Christian conservative Republican and you are not. So therefore, you're going to tell us that you're not. In fact, listen, he's going to tell us the good stuff. Go ahead, Kev.
Another applicant, Chad Burke, said the comments and conspiracy theories that he shared in a recent interview with that same radio station were based on him, quote, going off of what was said on the radio. And when you hear what is on the radio, you believe what's on the radio.
Yeah, let me interject real quick. Ben, I'm sure that Chad loves to listen to conservative talk radio, and it is a source. See, it's not, I'm sure you believe what you read in Salon Magazine, in The Atlantic, right? I mean, I'm just going, I don't know where you get your information from, Ben Matthews, but I'm certain, maybe even the New York Times, you probably are frequent there. NPR, you probably listen to a little bit of NPR. What other good sources are out there? You probably find other
Washington
means.
Post.
Oh, don't forget the Washington Post, because, they did do an article on us. You're right. Hold on, Ben. I get it. So Chad Burke doesn't necessarily feed at the same trough that you do. Therefore, he is a despicable, unworthy, just diabolical creature, human being. Go ahead, Kev.
Mr. Burke made it clear he believes January 6th was not an insurrection, not even a riot, but, quote, just an event staged by the government.
Actually, I believe
and he was glad that Blumenstein led a trip to go support the former president in his false claims of election fraud. These are not the people we need in positions
false
of
claims. Wait a second. I don't know if you saw the breaking news, but it's started to close in. The bombshell. The walls are closing in. There are sources now that are stating that contractors with the Defense Department, consultants, people in the know that provide the ability to gather information are now coming out and saying unequivocally that the 2020 election might not have been a fair and free election. Now, Ben, here it is 2023. And Ben, obviously, because you don't choose to expand beyond the sources of gathering information that truly supports your ideology and way of thinking, there has been a lot of things that have come out to show us that there were definitely irregularities to the electoral process. In fact, corporations, the FBI, agencies were interfering with the election. And Ben, you must be one of those deniers that believes that President Trump shouldn't have been indicted 2.5 years ago, because now is a better time. Because why? Political expediency? Is that why you believe Trump should be indicted while he is seeking the nomination for president, and that his opponent would go to the level of bringing charges against a Department of Justice? And it's just, but anyhow, go ahead, Kevin.
Leadership, power, or influence. And regardless of who is recommended tonight by the Republican chair on the board, we should be clear this is not the fringe of the Republican Party. Mr. Blumenstein is in a leadership position with the party, and that radio station is
wait, leadership. Wait a minute. Ben, you didn't get Leah Klein. She said I didn't have any leadership skills whatsoever. She said I lost those elections, got goose-egged, right? I was skunked. So you might want to check with Leah to make sure that's okay. Go ahead.
Significant part of the party's work. As a Democrat, I want to see Democrats elected because their values align most closely with mine.
Wait a minute.
But
wait a minute. Come on, Ben. You want to see Democrats get elected? I would have never been able to figure that one out. Go ahead, Kevin.
I want to be represented by my elected officials. I want them to listen, engage, consider various views, and to take seriously their responsibility of representing their constituents, all of their constituents, regardless of party affiliation. To the chair of the board, please recommend someone who can and will carry out that responsibility with integrity.
Here you
To
go,
the
guys.
Republicans on the board,
Here we go,
we see you.
Republicans. We see you.
we all see you.
We all see you.
You can stop performing for your crowd, for clicks and cheers, and start representing all of your constituents.
Gaslighting 101.
We understand your once solid grasp on power is fading, but your job here is not
Fading.
to grab for more power, but to govern. And to the Democrats on the board, I hope the events of the past month have once and for all demonstrated that doing the right thing in hopes that your colleagues across the aisle will follow
So
suit
righteous.
is a fruitless endeavor.
Virtuous.
Don't do the right thing hoping Republicans will respond in kind. Do the right thing because it's the right thing.
Of course.
And then be
Thank you.
prepared for the other party to do whatever they can to hold on to whatever power they have left.
Ben, you can
Thank
come
you.
on my show anytime. I will hold confessions on Sunday from 1 to 3 with Ben Matthews. Ben, thank you, because we were listening to you. We heard you. We know who you are. We see you, Ben Matthews. You've demonstrated to us over the last few years what your goal is, and it isn't about truly coming to the table. Your table is not inclusive of us. In fact, it's not a very diverse table. Hey, we're going to cover that. Appreciate Ben Matthews and his ability to exercise his First Amendment right as provided by the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Illinois. Ben, like I said, anytime you're welcome in studio with yours truly. I've got some questions to ask you because unfortunately, we couldn't get them answered that night, but maybe we will. And Kevin, I don't think Woodard asked you those questions, but we're going to cover a lot more of that. We're going to cover some more of the county board meeting, the professional political hatchet job where they try to basically disparage and demoralize two candidates. But don't worry, there is an election coming up. There are many of those positions, those county board seats that we can run against. And just a quick note, we will. Hey, we're going to cover that and more on the other side of the break here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington, Normal, and beyond. Okay. I know that this is a short break, but Kevin, getting into some of those qualifications. Let's go through it.
Well, I want to talk about that real quick, though, because
Go
at the
ahead.
very end of that, he basically said that his primary criticism is that he wanted somebody who was going to represent all constituents and not just go. He seemed to make the dichotomy to be either you represent all constituents or you do what you want because you think it's going to get you like some level of celebrity. Nowhere in there was it ever even, but nowhere in there did he ever explain how you wouldn't be representing all constituents and how you couldn't represent all constituents? All he said is that you were aligned with the Republican Party. Okay, well, you align with the Democrat Party.
You told us that you did.
How is it that anyone that you would recommend would represent all constituents and DPB wouldn't?
Yeah.
He never explained that.
Well, this is part of the reason I'd like to have him come in the studio, or
Well,
maybe
he's just
you
bad
can
at,
get him.
he's just bad at making an argument. I mean, he's just, I guess that's why
That's why you're sitting for the LSAT and he's not.
Well, and no disrespect to any teachers watching right now, but that's why they say those who can't do teach.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you know what? My wife being one of those teachers, and she's very good at breaking things down, as you know, because Kevin, you've been through my wife's questioning before.
I got those who can't do teach, those who can't teach work for the teachers union.
Well, I don't necessarily support that trait, but you know what? Your First Amendment allows you to say that. That's the beautiful thing. I don't necessarily agree with it. And Kevin, did you see me visibly get upset over here? No, I did not. But summary of qualifications. Let me go through these a little bit. This is what the board had in front of them. Vice Chair of Normal, McLean County Republican Party. State Director of Election Integrity, Bailey for Illinois. Regional Campaign Coordinator, Bailey for Illinois. Leader, Teacher, Team Member, Speaker at the Great
Comeback.
Banquet. Go ahead. But I probably should pick it up on the other side. You don't always get all the content unless you're tuned in on the Facebook side of things, because the show goes on even when we're not on air. Now, granted, I want you to stick with the radio if that's what you're most comfortable with. Try the new platforms, social media, Rumble, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Uh, it's definitely enjoyable over here, but we cover things during breaks. When, of course, I'm in studio, sometimes I have to bow out because nature calls. And I can say that, Kevin, because I mean, it's hard to do 2 hours when you're 60 years of age without taking a bathroom break. You're even allowed those at in elementary school. I sometimes had to ask permission to leave early for those because they never seemed to sync up with when I needed to use the restroom. But I was going through the qualifications. So there was a resume that was part of this application process for county board. You just heard Ben Matthews talk all things of why he wouldn't support an appointment of David Paul Blumenshine or Chad Burke. But it sounds like he's favorable to Cat Woods, which most Democrats were, because that was their candidate. That's who they had searched under every log they could out in the wilderness to find a candidate. And they did. They found Cat Woods. She was more to their liking. Um, Ran, Randall Knapp, is also a great patriot and warrior. He's going to be fantastic sitting on the county board. But I presented a resume, as did all the other applicants, I'm certain of. And here are the qualifications of yours truly. Not that I'm trying to uh, impress upon you all of my accomplishments, because it really has nothing to do with me. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my faith in God. That's how I find my inspiration. That's what drives me. That's what moves me. That is every part of my being. But here are my qualifications on a temporal standpoint. Vice Chair of Normal, McLean County Republican Party, State Director of Election Integrity, Bailey for Illinois. No surprise there. Regional Campaign Coordinator for Bailey for Illinois. Leader, teacher, team member, speaker of the Great Banquet, Chrysal Program, Chrysalis Program, and Teens Encounter Christ. Candidate twice, two-time candidate for state representative, 105th district, campaign manager for Jason Chambers, McLean County State's Attorney's Office, youth ministry, and as I said above, I worked in fundraising for different parish events through the Catholic Church, the Dwelling Place for God's People. That was the summary of qualifications. And never was that brought up. Unfortunately, what was brought up, and if you're just tuning in, you're going to be able to hear this, but we want to play a little bit of Elizabeth Johnston's uh, comments that are questioning. She did have a few questions of yours truly, and I tried to, in a nutshell, capsulate all those, and I think I did a fairly good job. But really, the real deal is don't listen to me say it. There is an entire YouTube video of that executive board meeting last Monday, and there's a video of the entire county board meeting here on Thursday. And you can listen for yourself how these members conducted. This is a member of the board who wanted to make a comment about the candidates or the applicants, I should say, for county board. Oh, there's the music playing. So we'll have to get back to Elizabeth Johnston and her comments when we come back from break. Mind you, once again, I thank you for being part of what we do here. Now we've surpassed 3 years. I don't know how long it is I'm going to have this show. I just thank God every day that I have the ability to come here into studio and to do these things, just like I appreciate Kevin when he drags me into studio to do reactions to TikTok videos. We haven't done that in a while. We got to catch back up with that. But you can find that out at the DPB Show, the David Paul Blumenshine Show on YouTube. We are here on Facebook, always for you, and Twitter and Rumble. Hey, we're going to be back right after this, and we're going to continue with more of what might be the rest of the story, the inside baseball to the McLean County board meeting. All right. Just like that. It must have been the Vikings have gone ahead of the Bears by 13 points. Fourth quarter, 12 minutes to go. Many of you might be watching. Let me see. I have to see who my picks were this week. You guys, I don't know who you're. I do want to get back. When we come back, we're going to cover a little bit more about the article that we did, some of the comments of Chair Metzger and what she was looking for in a candidate, which, once again, it's purely that in of itself. I didn't tell the full story of the meeting that I had with Catherine. I maybe I'll cover that a little bit when we come back. I think I found it interesting, to say the least, of how she opened the meeting up. Wait a second. There were my picks. Okay, there we go. Let me see. Wow, I picked Chicago. I usually haven't picked Chicago. I think I've only picked them twice this year. And obviously, it doesn't appear that I'm going to win unless there's just an amazing comeback. Baltimore, I had them over Tennessee. I had Washington, Atlanta winning. Cincinnati Bengals winning. San Francisco, Detroit Lions, go Lions. Jacksonville, the Jaguars. New Orleans, the Saints. New England, the Patriots. Wow, I really picked the Patriots. The Rams, the LA Rams. And they've always been the LA Rams until they moved to St. Louis for a brief period of time. Philadelphia, go Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, and then finally the Dallas Cowboys. Those are my picks. Let me go back to this article. I'll kind of tease this for you guys once again. So appreciate you joining us here in studio, but this is Catherine Metzger, and I chose the individual that I felt exemplifies Chairman McIntyre's best with skills and the qualities he brought, said Metzger. He is quiet and very thoughtful and has been a part of the community for a long time. And he has a very good business background, in a sense, very analytical. She was referring there to Randy Knapp. And yes, totally true on that. That's what I've witnessed in my own brief conversations with Randy. She did go on to say that after the executive board meeting, she did meet with two of the candidates, Cat Woods, and with Randy Knapp, and then chose, obviously, Randy Knapp to be the nominee. I don't think one was superior. I tried to bring a thoughtfulness to a good match with what Chairman McIntyre brought to our board. They go on to talk about the Ben Matthews and Ben's dissertation. We asked Metzger if, considering how Democrats would react to her nomination to fill the District 5 vacancy, was part of her calculations in nominating Knapp. And she said, absolutely. We want to make sure that we have candidates that can work across the aisle. And it really isn't across the aisle. We work together. I was insistent that, that's interesting. Up and down in Macon County, it's like a 15-5. Oh, we're coming back live. It is still the harvest season out there here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. I say beyond because we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, we are on Twitter, and we are on Rumble. And go out there, subscribe, let other people know that they can find us live. We always appreciate our radio audience. Thank you for tuning in here. Like I said, it's the harvest season. Get out and enjoy this beautiful fall weather. It's the most wonderful time of the year. If you're just joining us, we have been talking about what my friend Paul Harvey would refer to as the rest of the story, or inside baseball. What took place this past week with the appointment of John McIntyre's vacancy on the county board. A lot of things you didn't hear about. I was just reading the article we did on Cities 92.9. We asked Metzger, that would be Catherine Metzger of District 1. She is now the newly voted in, or I guess not appointed, but she was voted on as the newest chair of the McLean County Board. We asked Metzger if, considering how Democrats would react to her nomination to fill the District 5 vacancy, was part of her calculations in nominating Randy Knapp. And Catherine went on to say, absolutely. We want to make sure that we have candidates that can work across the aisle, and it really isn't across the aisle. We work together. I was insistent that, and all of the Republicans and Democrats also wanted to have people they felt were good for the board and that would be good for the county. I don't know, Catherine, you might have more explaining to do that, but you can come on the DPB show. You know I love you, but I don't necessarily agree with how you responded to that question. Um, Here's the thing, Catherine, and we met prior to the executive board meeting, and my wife happened to join us for that meeting. I wouldn't do a meeting such as this without having another set of ears and another mouth there, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding. But when you opened that meeting up, Catherine, and you had mentioned that you were there, very professional, as I expected, Catherine. There's no question about that. But you had mentioned you were there on behalf of your position with the board. I assured you that you were there for official business on behalf of the board. I hope I got that right. If I didn't, well, we can correct it later. But I assured you that I was there on behalf of business for the McLean County Republican Party. Because, see, Catherine, I have no need or no desire to work across the aisle or with Democrats. They have shown us what they want. You had a public commenter. Obviously, it wasn't that night, but you also had people there that questioned applicants in a manner that I believe was very unprofessional. So, is that the behavior that you're alluding to, that all Democrats and Republicans were insistent that they want to have people they felt were good for the board? I I don't know if that's the language I would use. As I shared with you, um, Catherine, Randy Knapp was our candidate, the Republican Party candidate for filling the vacancy. In fact, we were already working on having Randy run for the county board in District 5. At that point, we thought he would be running against Elizabeth Johnston, our favorite friend on the county board. And I know Kevin's got Elizabeth pulled up, and I think it's a good segue to play Elizabeth. But so, Catherine, here's the confusing thing. You make this statement. I was insistent that all of the Republicans and Democrats also wanted to have people they felt were good for the board and that would be good for the county. Here's Elizabeth Johnston, who happens to be the vice chair of the McLean County Board.
I was here for the meeting on Monday with the interviews. And I did get a call this afternoon from Miss Woods to let me know kind of her experience and what's happened. She was eager and excited, and she did bring a lot of qualifications, but she also spoke in favor of Mr. Knapp and encouraged that we support the nomination. She understands the value of the board and the work that we have to do. And so I applaud her for that, her responsiveness, and I applaud her commitment to the community. So.
Well, that was actually a different clip than I thought, but that's okay. That's all right, Kevin. I got it, because I can pivot off of that. So it wasn't Elizabeth doing the questioning of Chad Burke and myself, but what it was Elizabeth, you're in a public meeting. these applicants were Republicans. You had no problem talking with Cat Woods on the phone, but you wouldn't afford either Chad Burke or myself the same courtesy of reaching out to us and calling us. And I find it interesting that you and Cat Woods were in communication. This was a seat to be filled by a Republican. Now, granted, once again, I'm not saying there aren't Republicans out there that are a little bit more moderate and you probably find more appealing. That happens. But obviously, you were having conversation, and this gets back to the rest of the story. Randy Knapp was our candidate. He was going to run against you, Elizabeth. Now that's not going to happen because he's going to run to fulfill the 4-year term of John McIntyre. However, you are going to get an opponent, and it might be one of the two men that you disparaged in the executive meeting. And I believe it's justified, right? Because now we have witnessed the levels that you would go to not necessarily be somebody as Chairperson Metzger referred to as wanting to have people they felt were good for the board and that would be good for the county. I believe that Chad and I would be very good for the county. I believe, according to Ben Matthews, we would represent all county constituents, especially those in District 5, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, whether they're, whatever, we would be representing them. That's part of what we do. My qualifications and employment shows that I'm willing to do that. Excuse me, a little cough. I don't have the cough button. My employment, I'm a business strategist, on-air talent, Great Plains Media, real estate broker in the McLean County area since 1994. 1994, I've held a real estate broker's license through the state of Illinois. August or 2022, I was the state director of election integrity and regional coordinator for Bailey for Illinois. I worked at Unit 5 for almost 5 years, transporting in the vocational transitional assistance program. Great program, helping young people, young minds acclimate themselves to the world outside of high school in the job market, whether that be at Walgreens, Kroger's. Many businesses throughout town were very good at supporting our students with the VTAP program, trying to make sure that going forward they could have employment and jobs that could give them that self-esteem, that self-worth. But that was part of my position. Once again, working with all people across the board, not necessarily checking to see if you were a Republican or a Democrat. But that's a little bit of my background. And I don't think that story was told. I don't think Chad Burke's story was really told and his qualifications. He served our country in the United States military. He has been a husband and a father and a community member. And that wasn't what was on display. In fact, I think we have one more clip, and I know I better get to this or I won't get to it before the end of my show. We have another clip showing a member of our county board. And now you're going to recognize this gentleman because he also has, oh, that's all right. It's all right. Kevin's jumping out in front of it. This is another member who, and I want to make sure that I get this right. This is another member of the community. I thought this was going to be county board member Corey Byrne, but it's not. I think this is okay. This is what. Well, we're going to go ahead and play it because I think this is a gentleman that gets up and presents his views on the county board and how important this decision is. You got it ready? Okay.
Residents through digital inclusion efforts and by advancing digital equity goals.
And whereas the observance of Digital Inclusion Week seeks to increase public knowledge of the importance of digital equity and prompt digital inclusion efforts across our county to expand broadband access, foster adoption, promote digital literacy, and increase digital safety and security awareness. And whereas
Oh, that's
Digital
good. I
Inclusion
think
Week
no,
spearheaded
that's
by
all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. So there is a piece out there by board member Corey Byrne, and he is visibly angered by the fact that we would even have two infidels submit applications such as Chad Burke and myself for a county board seat. You know, when Ben Matthew refers to we should all be concerned, Ben, you're right. I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned about Crystal Abel, Corey Byrne, Elizabeth Johnston, Leah Klein, Val Lehman, Jim Rogal, Abraham, and the list goes on. Every Democrat who associates with the local party here, who has knowingly affiliated themselves with the Democratic Socialist of America. In fact, I don't have time. I encourage you to go out to social media and search the different members and look at their Facebook pages. Member Crystal Abel came out when my application was released, and she had public knowledge, which she is afforded to, as we all are on the applicants. And she came out, and not only did she want to talk the old Blumenschein's an insurrectionist J6 election denier, she made bold statements that I was party with or associated with people who threatened the life of the vice president. Crystal, I understand politics is a dirty business, but I also understand this. That's a fat lie. And I believe that when Ben Matthews talks about an apology, you owe myself and my wife and anybody else associated with this political process of governing under the constitutional principles that we adhere to an apology. Your behavior is unbecoming of a county board member. However, Catherine Metzger didn't point you out, but I am. And I'm going to continue to point out every member who doesn't agree with equal rights should be afforded to everybody. My right, Kevin's right, Kat's right, Bongino's right, Ben Matthews' right, Elizabeth Johnston's right, Val Lehman, Leah Klein, Jim Rogal. We all have the right of the First Amendment, free speech. And I will adamantly always declare and fight for that right. However, don't sugarcoat it. Just come out and say what you want to say. Don't hide behind some political theater. You know, it's funny because that's everything Ben Matthews was saying. We see you. We watch you with your political power moves. Ben, little gaslighting, my friend. Hey, we're going to be back here to wrap up the show at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, right after this. You know, I didn't get to the rest of the article. And once again, thank you for those that have hung in through the show. Big fan. Who was that guy complaining about DPB? That's from Paul Garcia Productions. Hey, look at that. Paul Garcia Productions. Paul, I saw you walking the other day. I was going to honk, but I always caution myself from doing that because I don't want to alarm anybody, especially if you're going down the road of honking. But Paul Garcia, if you guys don't know about Paul Garcia, if you have a business looking for a videographer, a choreographer, I guess that's what he does, right? Videography. Is that close, Kevin? Okay. Paul Garcia's Productions. Paul Garcia Productions. He can do it. He can help small businesses get their messaging out there in a manner that's pretty state of the art, pretty amazing. Thank you, Paul. You are definitely a fan and a friend of of not only the DPB show, but Cities 92.9. And we appreciate you and thank you because you're the one that kind of spearheaded the whole movement to the new digital platforms, the social media platform. So shout out to Paul Garcia and Paul Garcia Productions. Shout out to the rest of my friends here on the Facebook Live chat. I see you, as Ben Matthews says. I see you. No, I really see you because you have made my life better. I appreciate your comments, your encouragement. Um, I just it's everything. It makes coming in and doing this 2-hour piece every Sunday worthwhile. I try to follow all of you that follow me on the show on your social media. I don't always get to it, but I try my best to make sure that I'm part of your lives because you guys are definitely part of mine. I couldn't do it without your encouragement and support. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you. We're going to wrap up the rest of the show here uh, in about a minute. I'm going to do a recap of the county board meeting. The rest of the story, as Paul Harvey said, now you know the rest of the story. And definitely inside baseball. We've got an election season coming up. This, by far, without question, is going to be the most important election in the history of the United States of America. All the way down to the county board level. You can see it. I mean, they're not hiding. They're saying the quiet part out loud now. They're not even bashful about it, right? And that's something that I noticed that Catherine Metzger didn't mention was the line of questioning of applicants during the executive board meeting. I wish she would have been asked that question because I'd like to hear her voice publicly what she felt. Because in one breath, she says it's so important that we have everybody working together. I'd like to have her publicly tell you what her thoughts were of the questioning. I'm headed out here of studio. I'm going to leave Kevin. You'll be in good hands for a live presentation of one of the most dynamic talk shows on the weekend, and that's Speechless. Kevin Ferris, producer across the way, and also ton air talent extraordinaire. Kevin, give our audience a little taste of what's ahead on Speechless.
Yeah, well, I know many of you have probably been inundated with headlines this last week regarding the Israel-Palestine-Hamas conflict, the terrorist attacks, everything under the sun with that. And while I find the entire conflict fascinating and everything, I'm sure you've heard enough about that. But I do think that it's very important to recognize and break down the reaction by many privileged Americans who have, for some reason, come out in support of the terrorists and not Israel and the people that were brutally attacked, savagely attacked. And instead, they come out in support of the attackers. We're going to answer questions like, who are the real anti-Semites in America? Who are the real Nazis, the real fascists? And why do they really support the terrorists? We're going to go into a lot of that, as well as a few other stories from major news this week.
Well, I wish I could be listening, Kev, but I am headed out of studio and will be going down to an event, the Lincoln Series. Now, that is a program that takes applicants from around the state of Illinois, female applicants. It's all women, and they encourage women to become involved in the political process, meaning running for different political offices or supporting campaigns. And there are going to be plenty of campaigns coming up. But let me just make sure that you know, it's reported that Congresswoman Mary Miller is going to be there, State Senator Sally Turner, and these graduates. They are amazing young women who are going to make headway. You know, we have Desi Anderson. She's already in for the 91st. We have Sally Owens. She's running for the 46th. Well, hoping to get both Sally and Desi both in studio at the same time. The energy level will be so high because they're very dynamic human beings. They're willing to put themselves out there. They have a messaging. We need to win in 2024, folks. This is, I know you're hearing it. I really had prepared, had some notes to talk about Israel, and granted, it's horrific what's happening over there, the loss of human life. Um, Once again, if you support terrorism, openly support terrorism and the savagery that has taken place over there, um, you're living life wrong. You really are. And I pray for your soul. That's what I'm willing to do for you. If you're on a college campus and you're one of those people shouting, "Gas the Jews," I'm praying for your soul. Uh, the people that are unfortunately being used as human shields, the innocent people who are experiencing war, my heart goes out to them. Once again, I believe in peace. I believe in Jehovah Shalom, the peace that surpasses all understanding. Unfortunately, when you wish or verbalize that you want somebody to die, death to America, death to Jews, I'm sorry, you're not doing it life right. You need help. And I'm going to pray that you get that help. That's going to be my pledge. Um, However, I will be heading out to this event. Hopefully I'll catch Mary Miller speaking. Thank you, commenter, my friend, Christo. Amen. Amen. It can't be said. We need to all be on our knees praying for peace in this world, praying for a different way. I mean, we're seeing it. Now, granted, there's a lot of good out there. Just get outside and look at it. There's still it's still apple season. It's still harvest season. It's still football season. You know, the declaration that was made by these terrorists that they wanted a day of rage. Where was the day of rage? I'm not saying don't be on guard. Be on guard at any time in the world that we live in. I know there was a active shooter at the Texas State Fair last night. Uh, People are not in their right mind who choose to bring that type of destruction to another human being. They're just not in their right mind. But you need to be vigilant and prepared at any time, anywhere. Granted, we live in the breadbasket of America, so maybe not so much in Bloomington Normal, but even in Bloomington Normal, we need to be good stewards, good members of our society, and helping, leading, living a life in grace and in truth. That's what I want. I want truth, and I think that that's what most people seek. They want to live a life of grace. I believe that full-heartedly, that in every soul, there is a little ember, even in the darkest souls. Now, granted, for those people that are screaming death to others, I don't know if they're too far gone. They may be. It's unfortunate. When evil sets up shop in the heart of a person, it might never come back. But it doesn't mean we don't stop praying for those people. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Once again, I'm not here to disparage any of those people I spoke about. At the same time, we have an equal right to voice our God-given opinions. Hey, we're going to continue to do that next week when we come back. I'm going to have more news, more stories. I just appreciate you so much. I just bid you peace during this harvest season. Please get down on your knees and pray for peace. Until next week, I'll see you then.